lion's mane, you can do it in a as a whole mushroom, or you can get it in a powder form as well. But if anything, if you can get it fresh, it's best to do it like that because it tastes like meat. When you fry it
Mm-hmm.
down, you make it. It tastes like meat. It's really, really good. That's one of the main mushrooms. There's a lot of mushrooms, but that's the main one for your memory. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, ginkgo is good for your memory. But omega 3, a lot of stuff that we don't give our parents. I gave my mother all this stuff that all these vitamins, and it prolonged it. She lived until she was 83.
Welcome to the We Got Problems podcast with co-hosts Curtis G. Martin, Rhonda L. Brown, and Caliph Johnson Sr., the one and only podcast where solutions get discussed to our community's everyday troubles. Each week, you will hear mind-blowing conversations and actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become more effective. We got problems and we got solutions.
All right, you guys, welcome to the show. This is We Got Problems, the podcast where we discuss solutions. I'm Curtis G. Martin, and I'm here with my co-host, Rhonda L. Brown.
Hey, everybody.
Caliph Johnson Sr.
Hey, y'all, how y'all doing?
And Lashika Phillips.
Hey.
And we're here with a special guest, Miss Imecca. Imecca, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me again. I feel honored to be on the show. I feel like I'm on TV, but look, I ain't got no makeup on.
You are.
But I am a mother of 4, and I took care of my mother. So I'm just out here trying to help people because I feel like everybody has a story, and everybody can relate to everybody else's story if we just really kind of talk. And you'll understand that, hey, I got the same thing going on, or I know somebody. Everybody knows somebody who's elderly and who's going through, Alzheimer's.
Okay, so what is Raw Naturals, and how did you get started with that?
So Raw Natural, I got started on herbs when I was 15. My sisters and them introduced me to herbs, trying to cure the kids and stop taking medication and stuff. I was raised as a Muslim. So that they were really big on not taking stuff. You got to read your ingredients, and if it had a U on it, it came from this person. If it, these different signs. So I kind of got away from it when I moved to Georgia, and I just started eating up everything. So I kind of really like blew up. Once I started taking care of my mother, I wasn't taking care of myself. So I got back into the Raw Natural the herbs to help her, giving her herbs. So I took a class first, and then I went to Honduras to meet with Dr. Sabi, and I was in a class with him. And then they have classes in LA. So I took a couple hour classes, like Zoom classes, online classes. So I did about maybe 1,500 hours of learning how to mix herbs and just studying on my own. And because everything can't go together. And when you're on medication, you don't want to take herbs at the same time. I always tell people, I'm not a doctor, so I never tell you to stop taking your medicine, but you want to take your herbs. If you want to transition from the medication, you want to take your herbs an hour before, check your vitals if you have high blood pressure or if you're a diabetic or whatever, but you want to take your herbs first, an hour or 2 before, check your vitals or whatever you got to check that you normally check. Then if you don't, like say you have high blood pressure, you check your vitals first. And if your high blood pressure is low, you want to take your drops, because I have high blood pressure drops. So it's 5 drops, you take your drops. And then an hour later, you want to check your blood pressure again. If it's high, then you take your medication. So you're checking yourself 3 or 4 times a day, and you're taking your drops 4 times a day. What people don't do is they don't check themselves. The doctors prescribe them, 2 pills a day or 1 pill a day. They just take the medication. They don't even check to see if they need it. So, and that's how I really got involved with the diabetes, because my mother's a diabetic, and all she did was just took 12 units of insulin, no matter what.
Oh,
So
wow.
like, you ain't even checking yourself. You're not checking. Oh, I don't want to check a lot of people don't like to prick themselves. But how do you know you need it, the medication, if you don't check to see?
Wow.
So most people think, oh, the doctor give it to me, just take it. But if you want to get off medication, you want to transition yourself off of it, you need to check your vitals to see if I even need this stuff. You're not giving your body a chance to replenish itself, or your pancreas a chance to build itself back up, because you keep shooting it with insulin or high blood pressure, the pills. So that's really my passion, is really trying to help us get off of these synthetic medications that's causing 5 and 6 different ailments. If you take this, you may not be able to see tomorrow, or just different things. You might have nosebleeds, just different things that happen to you when you take these medications. So doctors are just practicing medicine. They don't know everything. So Rhonda could be taking something that I'm taking, but it'll affect her differently than it'll affect me. So when I go back to my doctor and say, hey, well, this is causing me, the shivers, they're going to put that on there. Okay, well, this causes shivers. You know what I'm saying? So that's what and they always give you this big list when you get your prescription of what can happen, what things to look out for. So if you want to get off the natural, synthetic stuff and get onto the herbs. Somebody asked me, will I have to take this always? It just depends on how long your body takes to reheal itself. So you may not have to take herbs all the time, but I would rather take the herbs and knowing it doesn't have a side effect versus taking the medication and knowing that it does.
Okay. So how did you said you were taking care of your mom. How did you get started with that? Was it the herbs that you were doing, or did something,
So I was set up as a child. Let me tell y'all that first. So the meaning of my name, Imecca, is the one who nourishes. My mother has 7 children. I'm next to the youngest out of all 7. I always call myself the black sheep of the family because I'm the one that have a separate father from the rest of them, the darkest in the family. And my mother, she made a difference between her kids. So I was the one who caught the short end of the stick all the time, getting beatings for shit I didn't do. It was like, oh, well, some shit I didn't catch you doing. So I'm beating you, I got a beating for that. So when she got sick, I had already moved to Georgia, and my youngest sister was taking care of her. And I knew something was wrong because my youngest sister was spoiled. She ain't know nothing about taking care of nobody. I'm like, if my mother's letting her take care of her, something's wrong. So when I would go to visit, I would pay attention to her. And she would repeat herself constantly. Or she would forget stuff. So I kept saying, man, something's going on. So I did some research and found out that she had dementia. That's the first stages of Alzheimer's. So my dad took care of her until he passed. So a lot of the stuff that she was doing, he covered it. So we didn't know because, was nobody in the home. Everybody was grown and gone. And then once he passed, I was able to see the different things that she would forget to do. So then my brother moved it from California to take care of her. And I'm like, something ain't right, because these are 2 people that don't know nothing about taking care of nobody. So when some people would call me and say, hey, the lights is out in the house. Or I had my god brother go over there and there was no lights on. And my mother, my neighbors was complaining that my brother had a generator. It was just crazy. So I would call my sister in California. I was like, look, I'm going to go do a drive-by. And that's what I did. I went to drove to New York with somebody, told my brother I was taking mom because he didn't want me to take her because he was, living off of her Social Security check. So I told him I was going to take her out to lunch. And I just drove to Georgia. So about 10 o'clock, he was like, where mom at? I was like, look, take me to court. I'm taking her. Because, her nails hadn't been cut. And, being a diabetic, you become, you have to go to a podiatrist. You just can't go and let anybody cut your nails. Her nails was long as my fingers. You know what I'm saying? So he wasn't taking care of her at all. So she didn't even know where she was at. So I just drove her down here and I switched everything over and I just started taking care of her. And I had to really, really kind of stop my life because now here I got somebody who has dementia. And she was, when they have dementia, they start accusing you of stuff. They start saying crazy stuff. She was like, well, where's your mother at? And I'm like, you my mother. You know what I mean? So it was like, it was funny. So I said, let me start writing about it so that I can be a blessing to somebody else. So my mother used to walk out the house in the middle of the night, and I was like, look, and I guess God knows who to put in charge, because she wouldn't listen to nobody else. You know, she was like, oh, y'all, you're not my mother, or you're not this, you're not that. And so I was like, look, you're going to take a bath. That's just the bottom line. So I really kind of just took charge and knew that I'm the mother now and she's the child. So that's how I started taking care of her.
Okay. You said that dementia is one of the early stages of Alzheimer's. What are some of the telltale signs that you should be looking for in that when you know that that's kind of coming on? What are some of the things you should see, like the red flags that go up that you should be looking for if you were worried about somebody's going through dementia or Alzheimer's?
So they start repeating themselves, and then they start doing stuff. Like my mother used to catch herself. You know, if I ask her a question, she say something crazy, she'd be like, well, it is what it is. And I'd be like, yeah, all right. You know what I'm saying? She would catch herself because she knew she couldn't control it anymore. Because at some point she was able to control it. But then when she stopped being able to control it, I was paying attention to the things that she would say, or the things that she would do, or how she would dress. You know, just little different things. If you know your parent, you know that something is not right. And then once I started doing research on it, I found out that it was Alzheimer's, and there's 7 different stages of Alzheimer's, of a dementia to the Alzheimer's, and then you just follow that. I played doctor, nurse.
What are some strategies for managing behavior changes in someone with Alzheimer's?
Now that's the tricky one, because she used to say that I let my brother and his wife take it. She never liked my brother's girlfriend, never ever. And we all worked. My mother was a nurse, for one, and we all worked in Willowbrook. It's a mental institution in Staten Island. So she was a nurse there, and the rest of us was like occupational therapists and stuff like that. You know, taking care of the clients. So she never liked this lady. So, but I let her go over there. I figured, you know, she got Alzheimer's. She won't remember her, but she remembered her. She thought my brother was her husband. So he was like, look, I'm not dealing with this. Come get her. So she was like, well, they got my baby. So she thought she had a baby. And for me, a lot of people say play along with it, but I couldn't. Because I'm like, I'm not playing. She ain't got no baby. You know what I mean? So I stayed true to whatever it was that she was going. I had to make her come back into reality, like, you don't have no baby. Because first thing came to my mind was, well, who the hell's the father? You got to.
How did you do that?
You got a baby. Say that again.
I said, how did you do that?
I just did it out of impulse, because I didn't want to play the game. Because if you play the game with them, I think you go into a dangerous waters when you do that. I just stayed true to what reality was. I kept her in the now. You don't have a baby. You know, 70 years old. What baby? Where's daddy? But it was a fight with her, because it was like, what you mean? You know what I mean? It was a back and forth, but I stayed on it. And when I started taking her to the doctors, he was telling me the same thing. He was like, don't play into it. But everybody kept saying, well, just let her have it. But I didn't think that was a good idea. I think they lose themselves quicker if you play that game with them.
And so what type of things can you do to help somebody with Alzheimer's keep their independence?
You really can't. So, like I said, my mother was a nurse. And after a while, I wanted her to go to a day center where other people like her was at. So what I tried to make her feel like, I didn't let her get on the van in the beginning with the rest of the crew. I would take her and made her think she was going to work. So she thought she was going to work, and they will allow her to help serve and do stuff like that, because she didn't realize that she had, you know what I mean? She didn't know that she was sick. So I just played along with it.
Okay. Are there like certain activities or, you know, hobbies or something that can help people with Alzheimer's?
You have to, before they while they have dementia, you can do something. But once they get to the stage of Alzheimer's, and it depends on that individual. So my mother was a worker. She worked all her life. So I would let her, help do stuff around the house. But you had to be there to supervise them. You couldn't let them my mother used to do stuff like put a shoe in the freezer, or she would put um, cake, because she was a diabetic too. So she would put a piece of cake in between two pieces of bread. So you got to eat it. So if I bought her a cake that didn't have no sugar in it, she wouldn't eat it. So she knew. So you had to really kind of know who you're dealing with and what they like to do. She wasn't into reading. She wasn't into doing crossword puzzles. None of that stuff. She was just a mother, and she was a caregiver. So she played that role, and I had to play the back end of it along with her, if that makes sense. Allowing her to do it without stopping her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with that being said, what are some ways that you can find to keep your loved ones safe in these type of situations? What do you recommend?
Well, for me, it was very hard because I had to think, if she was in a home, what was she? That's something my mother always said. She never wanted to be in a home because we all worked in those places.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to think about what she would do if she was there in order to keep her safe at night. So I had to put a lock on her door. And that was so hard for me, because I'm like, damn, I'm locking her in. Her room is like she in prison. But I got a porta potty, one of them little seats, and put in her room, and I had to lock her door. That was the only way, because if I didn't, my stove have one of those click, 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 click. She used to be downstairs with the click, 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 click. I'm like, Mom, what you doing? I ain't doing nothing. Or I'm cooking y'all dinner. So to make us all safe, I had to lock her in and double lock the doors. So when I first moved into the subdivision that I'm in, we had these meetings with the different new people that moved in here, and I used to always tell them, hey, my mother has Alzheimer's. If y'all see her out, let me know. So she did get out at one time, and my neighbor called me, and all she did was walked out of the garage and walked around the front. But because I'm on a corner, and if I didn't let everybody know, they can get lost like that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's funny, because my grandmother, everybody in the neighborhood knew her, so they automatically knew, like, let me take Grams home. Everybody called her Grams, right? She would be all like blocks away, and someone like, Grams, what you doing up here? Let me take you home, and they would bring her home. We was like, shit.
Yeah. So you just got to be careful. And for me, it was just me. I didn't have no help with my siblings. My sister lived in California, my older sister, so she would come down twice a year. And then the ones that was here, they used to be like, I don't want to see her like that. I'm like, shit, I don't want to see her like that either, but somebody got to take care of her. So my children helped me take care of when I had to go to work. And it was hard. It was very, very hard, because I watched her go from talking to not walking to not eating, the whole nine, and really fighting the doctors. Every time she went to the hospital, fighting them, because they even called the police on me, because I knew she had a yeast infection, because you could see it in her bag, but they wanted to send her home so that she can come back just to get medicine. I'm like, we're not doing that. We're not going to play these back and forth games. So even the hospital was telling me to put her on no resuscitation. I told them I wouldn't do it, because I want y'all to save a life. I didn't want her to be on, this is her later years. I didn't want her to be on a machine, but I didn't want y'all not to do what y'all need to do to save her, and let me be the one to say, take her off the machine. So it was just hard watching that. That's the worst disease, I think, ever, outside of cancer, because you're watching them deteriorate.
How has it been trying to find resources? I know you mentioned not having assistance or support from your family, but have you been able to find resources outside of your family that helps you?
So it is a lot of resource out there, like hospice, when it depends on, the stage that when she was in her last stages, hospice would come in. But my mother was a proud woman. They wouldn't have one person to come in. They would have, 4 or 5 different women. And I was like, no, let me just do it. I'll just bathe her myself. But they had nurses that would come in and check her vitals and all that. Her room was really like a hospital room, because I made them give her a feeding tube when she stopped eating. They didn't want to give her a feeding tube. And I'm like, if I don't give her a feeding tube, she don't eat, she gonna die. You know what I mean? So you got a feeding tube. What's that for? People that can't eat. These are the conversations I had with doctors that was fighting me, because seniors, they don't care about them at all. It's like, let them go somewhere. And I said, why don't I just throw her in the backyard? This is how I had to respond to them, because he was fighting me tooth and nail about giving her a feeding tube. I'm like, give her a feeding tube. So you really have to go to bat for your people. And there are resources out there. Like if I needed a break, they have respite. You could, take them to respite. And then again, they had people that would come in. So I just had one lady that would come in the days that she would come, that would help, me bathe her or stuff like that. But to have a bunch of people in and out of the house, and then I'm from New York, so if you didn't call before you came, you just at the door. They would have people just come. I'd be like, she didn't call, so I'll be standing there looking at her. They standing there looking at me. You ain't call. You ain't just gonna come over. So, but I had to turn into this what they call a helicopter parent. I was like a helicopter parent with my mom.
And so how do you deal with the emotional stress of being a caregiver or taking care of a loved one with Alzheimer's?
That was hard too. For me, I just prayed a lot, and I'm not a religious person, so to speak. I believe that there's a higher power, but I did a whole lot of praying, and I did when I was going to church on every Sunday and every Tuesday, whatever. So I have my pastor that I still call to this day, even though I don't go to church, but he was my spiritual father. Every time I went to the hospital, he would come. He'll be right there. And we was at the hospital a lot of nights, because she would always get, either her sugar level will go up or go down, just different things, or she'd get an infection, this, that, and the third, just different stuff. So it was really an emotional thing. So I couldn't even be in a relationship, because I didn't like people to tell me what to do. Because everybody kept saying, oh, well, you need to just let her know that it's okay that she leave. I'm not God. I don't want her to leave. So I'm not going to tell her, okay, you could die now. To me, that was stupid. So I'm like, no, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure she's cared for. And then when God was ready to come get her, he was going to come get her no matter what I did. No matter what I did. So I stopped traveling. I stayed closer to home towards her latter years, because I didn't want to be on a trip and somebody called me, oh, grandma died. Or, I didn't want to, I just stayed home. And I just fought I would call it the good fight, because I didn't want her, I didn't want people to just do whatever they wanted to do. And if you allow it to happen, that's what they would do. So there's the question you asked about support. There is, there's respite out there. There's hospice. Hospice is when they don't give them no kind of medication at all. That's when they're on their the last part of their life. They just there to monitor them. So I continued to give her medicine. I continued to do everything that needed to be done with her. And I said, hey, y'all can come if you want to. You don't, you don't. I was at that point where I was going to do whatever it took, because I wasn't ready for her to go. I just wasn't. I wasn't ready for her. I would have did it another 11 years if I had the opportunity. And her last night, it was Father's Day, and she was moaning. And I didn't realize, because I had a girlfriend that died of cancer, and she has, it's called the death cry. And Vera, she did the same thing. And when my mother was doing it, I didn't pick up on it. So I was like, damn, are you in pain? I thought, because she never complained. She had, she needed her leg amputated 6 months before she died. And the doctors were saying, well, she's not going to make it. I'll give her 6 months. You might as well just, not get the surgery. She may not make it through the surgery. I said, look, do what you got to do. I'll take the 6 months. I'm not going to just let my mother, she had caught gangrene in her foot. I said, I'm not just going to let her die, without trying something. So she did get her leg, not her whole leg, but, from the knee down, amputated. And I thought maybe she was in pain. She never complained about none of that. So I gave her some morphine to help her sleep. And I had a baby monitor that I would listen to. So I would go down and check her and turn her. She was in like a waterbed, but it was a sand bed. But it felt like a waterbed. Mm-hmm. So I would just go and turn her every 3 hours. And that's why to this day, I still don't sleep at night. But if I heard anything, I would go downstairs, just back and forth, up and down the stairs. So she was moaning that night, and I didn't think nothing of it. I said, oh, maybe she's just in pain, now. So I gave her the morphine. about 3 o'clock in the morning. I used to say something, but God woke me up. It was cold. I'm looking at the frost on the window. So I went downstairs to check on her. And before I put her to bed, I said to her, I said, "Mom, you trying to leave me?" So she was like, she didn't talk. She was looking at me, strange. I said, "All right, now don't try to leave here." So put her to bed. Went to bed about 3 o'clock that morning. She was warm. She had just died, and I freaked out because I thought I was gonna be this strong, person. Hey, and I watched it as far. I know she gonna die, but I kind of lost it. And then I just said, "I know you tired, but you said you wasn't gonna leave me," but you did anyway. And I just called everybody, and that was the end of that whole ordeal. But it was an emotional roller coaster. I woo-sighed at the end because I felt like my 8-year-old granddaughter said, "Grandma got her leg back. She up there with Michael Jackson singing." So that made me feel good that even her at a little age know that when you transition, you get all your parts back. You go back to being that one whole person. So it wasn't, and I didn't freak out like everybody. How people be at the funeral crying the hardest. Those are the ones that don't be there. I just felt like I did everything that I was supposed to do as her daughter, and I couldn't do no more. And I always said when God was ready to come get her, He was going to come get her.
So with you doing everything that you did, and you said your kids helped you, and for those that don't have that, when would you suggest like them seeking professional help or support?
Like put them in a home?
Yeah. or getting somebody out to come help. My mom I would never. We better not ever put her in a home. So
right, I would never suggest to put them in a home. Oh, now, I said to my daughter, I'm in here. I said to my daughters, if y'all can't take care of me together, find some place to put me where that I'm be taken care of. So you got to really vet the homes because that's hard. And I don't want my daughters to stop, living because I didn't date. I didn't do none of that because I didn't want nobody to tell me to put my mother in a home. That was cussing words. I'll be, I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah, my mom's took care of my grandmother as long as she could. At the end, she had to. It got really violent.
Yeah, see now something like that. What could you do? You're not gonna put yourself in a harm's way. My daughter-in-law's father has Alzheimer's, and his wife is trying to take care of him for the money. And this man she put him in a home, and he done felt up the women that's in there, and got aggressive, and the people done beat him down. So she don't want to pay the money, and I'm like, for your safety, you got to do what you got to do. But my mother was, I used to pick her up and put her in a wheelchair. She was heavy. I used to always tell her, if I drop you, charge it to my heart. I made light of my care of her. Yeah. And I wrote the reality. Right. Yeah. But it's different with a man. And it's different with those aggressive women. So look, when they have Alzheimer's, they go back. They don't remember today. They remember stuff from before. My mother was something else back in the day. Because I done seen stuff like, whoa. That's my who? Like, yeah, he dropped off. He was like, yeah, your mom, grabbed my crotch. And I was like, yeah, my bad.
Okay.
Hey, you guys, before we close out, Trash, what you want to leave the people with?
Hey, no. Take care of your ancestors. Take care of your elders. Take care of the people who got you here, who definitely put the time in to getting you to it, be it good or bad. It might not always be good, but be it good or bad. The people that got you here and got you to adulthood, you're once an adult, you're twice a child. So in that second childhood, make sure you are putting the love in as an adult. So when it's your turn, your seeds do the same.
All right, cool. How about you, Rhonda?
I would say take care of yourself early to try and prevent some of these things. I know some things are like not preventable, but take care of your health. That way your family don't have to in the end.
Yeah. How about you, Lashika?
Yeah, I'd say if you can start thinking about what that plan would look like now while you are in your right mind. As Imecca mentioned, that being able to vet some of these facilities requires you to actually go visit and visit different times. But I also want to say that having a relative in your care in your home, sometimes that's not the best option for every family. So I appreciate y'all giving those examples to where there were families that did put their relatives, in a facility. Sometimes that's the only way to ensure the better care. So I'd say, evaluate your own family situation, evaluate your own family circumstance, right? And then from there, start making decisions or making plans. And thank you so much for sharing so much of your very personal story, Imecca.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Thank you very much, Quinn.
It was a pleasure because I just want to be a blessing to other people. Because, like you said, everybody cannot do it. But I just felt like that was what God led on my heart to make sure that my mother was taken care of to the best of my ability, because she said she never wanted to be put in a home. And I just wanted to, go with her wishes.
Yep. I'm gonna leave the people with you guys. Whatever you do what's the best, what's in the best interest of you and your family, kind of like what Lashika said. And just make sure we making sure our people is being taken care of, because we all we got.
So let me just say, I have 5 things that I wanted y'all to know for dementia. If your family or somebody have dementia, they can take lion's mane, which is really, really good. It's a mushroom. Also, you could take it's called super beets and omega-3 and vitamin.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. You giving out some nuggets and you just like breezing through this. I know it was like in the process of wrapping up, but I think that this is going to require so let's take a step back. When you say talking about some lion's mane, wait, is that a capsule? Do you go to the grocery store to find it? Like, what are you talking about? Lion's mane, only lion's mane I know is the discovery. So you're gonna have to break that down, Imecca, for the people way in the back.
Lion's mane, you can do it in as a whole mushroom, or you can get it in a powder form as well. But if you can get it fresh, it's best to do it like that, because it tastes like meat. When you fry it down, you make it tastes like meat. It's really, really good. That's one of the main mushrooms. There's a lot of mushrooms, but that's the main one for your memory. And of course, ginkgo is good for your memory, but omega-3, a lot of stuff that we don't give our parents. I gave my mother all this stuff that all these vitamins, and it prolonged. She lived until she was 83. So to me, that's a good age. But of course, super beets is very well too. All these are memory things that help you with your memory. For those who don't want to do the crossword puzzles and all that stuff. Vitamin, super beets, ginkgo, omega-3, and vitamin E. I think everybody should be on natural herbs on a daily basis. That Irish moss, you should take that every day. It has 92 different minerals in it. Our body needs 102. So you want to take that. For men, you want to do the saw palmetto and the hawthorn berry. That helps prevent prostate cancer. Burdock root, that's good for men as well. So you want to get into these herbs. And herbs are preventive. It's not a medication. So if you have anything that's going on, it's going to prevent you, or in your family, it's going to prevent it, like prostate cancer. You start taking these things, your numbers are going to be good. So palmetto, that's the stuff that I sent Caliph. So yeah, take that on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'm gonna run it back one more time. It was lion's mane, super beets, omega-3s, ginkgo, and vitamin E.
That's correct.
Hey guys, we got problems, but we also have solutions, and we out.
Peace.
From the team at CRC Empire, we want to thank you for listening. To stay connected with us, like, share, and subscribe to the We Got Problems podcast. You can find us on social media platforms at Curtis Martin 247, at Rhonda Writes Official, and at the_trash_vegan_. We got problems and we got solutions.